here comes the old mistletoe painting chat, where we paint this little green froggy boy and see quite how that little happy toad goes. So this is a 3D print coming off a low resolution extrusion printer, which makes it a bit tricky at times. You can kind of see the lines and everything. It makes it kind of hard to control with a brush. It likes to funnel through the little grooves in it and kind of run everywhere if you're too thin on your paint. Here he is just spinning around, enjoying his happy little unpainted life in his green plastic. But we're going to change that here pretty soon. Let's not get too dizzy, Toady Boy. There's going to be a lot more of this. So first step is to prime them. I just used a Vallejo gray primer through the airbrush in the booth you see here. Gives the paint something to stick through. I like to do it in the airbrush booth. First color we're going to lay down here is a Vallejo Model Air Gunship Green. Now, since he's a 3D print, that's not a high-res resin printer, we're going to do most of the bulk of the work with this here airbrush. Pick a nice mid-tone green to go here. Test out the old airbrush a little bit. Make sure I got the pressures right. Now, just in case I forgot what color paint that was a gunship green. It's a nice little mellow mid-tone to kind of go with. Goal here is just going to be to give him a nice little even coat. Not too thick that it ruins the zenithal highlight we put in there. It's a happy little boy here, getting greened up like a toad should be. And of course, just as important as getting nice even green coverage on that froggy boy, you want to keep your airbrush clean and happy. Just a nice little spurt of water and cleaner to get the paint out of there so it'll keep doing its job working for you. You take care of it, it'll take care of you. We get a nice little spin around to look at wonderful paint drying. Maybe go for a little walk along the edge of the rotary there. But he likes spinning, like showing off his little new green digs. Not the same as his old plastic green digs. I like to spin around and think about what else we're going to get going on here. Like, what's that rope going to look like when I'm done? What kind of colors do we want to use on that? But that's not the question for now. For now, we're going to pick a nice green Zeek chrome here. And this is going to be our first highlight coming in from about a 45 up, mostly hitting the top areas of them. Just to kind of get a nice baseline of where the light's bouncing off them. Give them a little bit more of a nice brighter green going here. Then we'll move on up to the next little bit more focused highlight, Model Air pale green here. This one here, we're going to focus a little bit more tighter on the high spots. Make sure that all the big points on the toady boy that stick out get a nice little bit of highlight on them. It'll really help them pop out. And of course, enjoy him sitting there in the background while we go through the nice little cleaning ritual and make sure that it's all nice and fresh for the next color. During that highlight step, it's nice to really drop the pressure a bit so you're not throwing a bunch of paint out there. Just work everything up in nice little layers. Doesn't let you overdo it. And you can go back over and keep brightening your spots. Just another layer on top of another layer until you get a little bit of pop in there. So now that we've got the base of our highlights in here, our midtones, we're going to go ahead and go in here with this olive green, a nice darker green, still a really vibrant green. And go ahead and lay in some of those shadows in there. All the undersides. Little froggy boy's got some deep dark green armpits in there to get to. Really start giving a little bit of that depth. A little bit more contrast in there without adding a bunch of blacks and grays. You can really dial in and shade even the spots that aren't going to be green at the end there. It'll help give it a nice dark value. Since the paint's transparent, it'll give a little bit of green through it. It'll help add a whole coherency to the whole model. And really go in and give them some nice fine deep lines in there. So now we're going to go ahead and do a little mix of pale green and white gray. I definitely don't remember the ratio, just mix it till it looks nice and light. You don't want it to be too white, you don't want it to be too green. This is going to be our kind of pop highlight in there. And turn the pressure down real low and really focus in on making some nice little poppy highlight spots in there right along the tops of the eyes, the tops of the legs, anything that's really sticking out. And it's okay to make them a little brighter than you expect right now. You really want them to add that extra pop in there. You can see him as he's spinning. It looks maybe a little washed out in places, but we're going to fix that here in a second. So I didn't pay too much attention to keeping the greens nice and uniform in here. I was picking nice lights and dark ones that mix between high saturation and low. And this is how we're going to knock that back down and make it all blend together. We're going to mix the first two base and mid tones and with a little bit of glaze medium and a little bit of water. Get a nice thin transparent color that we're just going to use the airbrush to lightly apply all over the little toady boy. This will help unify all those different colors, and it's transparent enough that it's not going to really ruin the values we set up. It'll let some of the different color choices shine through. Oh, little toady boy took a spill there. Shouldn't spin too fast on him. So that gives us our nice green base on the toad. I think I'm happy enough to call that one done for now. So now it's time to work on his little toady underbelly. We're going to start with this nice little green brown, which is really just kind of a muddy green. And kind of lay in that first dark color underneath his tummy. And yep, that's right. Right up in there where his chin is. Make sure it's nice and happy. You can still get a little bit of the shadow from the greens before coming through there. And of course we got to clean everything out. And then we're going to flip it up. Instead of green brown, go to a nice brown green, which is just a little bit more of a lighter green, a little bit more yellows and oranges in it, a little bit paler. Layer in our highlight layer real quick. Yep, and clean it back out because we're working to a lighter color. I really don't want to get too much of that dark color in there. We're going to do the final highlight with a little bit of dead flesh, which is just a nice warm off-white. It's got a little bit of green tinted in there. That's just going to hit the high spots and really lighten it up a little bit. Yep, that's a happy toad underbelly. Almost want to give it a little scritch. And of course, this is going to be the last of the airbrushing, so we might as well give it a nice full clean in here. Make sure the airbrush is happy, so we can do happy little airbrush work with it. And there we go. Last of the airbrush booth for now. Alright, so we're going to go with bone white for our first layer of white. It probably would have been easier to spray the missile white and mask it off and let the airbrush do the bulk of the work, but I definitely don't mind taking my time and doing all the extra steps to do a nice white finish on top of another color. So we're going to thin the paint so it's got enough coverage and isn't running everywhere on this thing. And just have a happy little time running the brush in there and making sure we get a nice even coat. Pick out where we're going to have the stripes on this thing, how this color separation is going to go. You can see me switching to my little black brush there. I had a little bit too thin of paint, and so doing one of the little tricks of using a clean brush, and dry it out a bit, and then you can pull all the runoff paint out with the brush and rinse it off and dry it back off and pull it all back out. I guess we'll just go back at it with another round in here. Well, the little secrets I've learned about painting white on top of other colors is just add another layer until it no longer looks green and it looks white. You can see here it's not a lot of green shining through. I guess we're going to have to step it up a little bit here. And so we're going to add a little bit of Vallejo model color white. You can see me add it on the palette where it just kind of explodes everywhere and it's way more than I need, but you can mix it around the palette and get the right color you need. Even a little mistake like that gives you a little bit extra to work with. There you can see it's already brightening up to white a little bit more than it was before. And yeah, you can just keep repeating this step, add a little bit more white to each different layer until you get the nice white you want. I'm happy with what I got there. So now we're going to roll over and start working on what's going to be the fins and the nose cap on part of this. I'm going to start with a nice dark base layer of red. This burnt red from Vallejo model colors really my go-to for a nice deep dark red. We'll get it going and do the same thing as before, thin our paint out enough that it'll flow off the brush easy and we're not streaking. And then do a couple of layers until we got a nice solid base coat going here. That happy little nose cone. Needs a little boop with the paintbrush. I'm going to show you two different paints here then. Only really use one of them for my highlights here. I'm just going to take the Scarlet and slowly add a little bit of that into my red on the palette as we go. This is a fun little trick I like to do with the reds, is take your highlight colors, mix it in there, make it kind of a little bit more flowy than it was before, a little bit more water, and paint towards your highlight. That'll pull all the pigment to where you really want it to be bright, bright red. And then keep layering that up, add a little bit more Scarlet as you go, and just keep working that bright pigment to the highlight areas and leave those shadows dark and deep. It'll take a couple of layers, but man, is it a satisfying process to do. Now it's time to roll over to the blacks and the grays here. I'm gonna start with a nice base coat of this neutral gray. I'm just not gonna paint it black straight up. That's kind of boring. That's not how it really looks. What we're gonna do is take a little bit of this deep sky here, and then for the black, we're gonna take a little bit of that black, mix in a little bit of that deep sky blue, and just enough to tint it so it's not pure black. Because when you look at something that's black, it's not all black, it's deep black in the shadows, but you've got all this other things bouncing off it. So we're going to use this deep dark blue black here. We're going to use that for our base coat color for the whole thing. And then here in a bit, we're going to come in with some pure black and do the underbits and the shadow parts and put those in. And add a little bit of that neutral gray back into the blue black and put a nice little highlight layer up on the top. Because even you can see on my water cup there, it's black, but most of that cup isn't really black when you look at it. It's different colors, and only the deepest shadows are black. You got a nice little And then when it's time to shift over to this rope, we're going to go back to that old green-brown to help kind of tie the whole thing together. We're going to use a little bit of khaki there to work in some highlight colors and give that rope some nice texture. We'll get this rope going, get it nice and base coated and even. Then slowly work in a little bit more khaki as we go. Put some nice lines in there. Now for the eyes, they're going to go quick. We're just going to use a nice unsaturated yellow and work our way up to a nice bright yellow going here. But I'm a little crazy. I like to do the eyes at the very end. Breathe a little bit of life into the little toady boy. We'll paint some pupils in there. Do it nice and quick, and then throw a nice little dot of white right where the reflection's going to get so they look kind of wet there, and there he is. You can finally look out and see the world. It's a little fuzzy. Maybe we should get him some glasses. Nope. He's good with that. He can see fine. Some last little touch here, trying to paint the mistletoe letters onto the side of this guy. Just a little bit of quick precision brushwork. You don't want to be too thin, you don't want to be too thick here, and just really keep everything braced. That makes all the difference there. Here we go. Final little spinny round boy. Got some nice bright green highlights in there. A little bit of texture on the rope. Enjoy yourself in your new paint job. Much better than all that solid green plastic that you were printed in. What a happy little mistletoe.